The night Lena Carter saved a killer's life, she signed her own death warrant. One choice. 3 seconds. A spilled glass of water that stopped a murder and started a war. Lena was nobody. A waitress. A ghost in an expensive restaurant where the powerful ate and the invisible served. She had one rule. Keep your head down, get home to your daughter, survive another day. But when you stand between a bullet and its target, you don't get to be invisible anymore. Stay with me until the end. Hit like and drop a comment with your city. I want to see how far this story travels. The rain hit Manhattan like punishment. Lena Carter stood at the service station, rolling silverware into white linen napkins with the mechanical precision of someone who'd done it 10,000 times before. Her fingers moved without thought. Fold, tuck, roll, stack. The kitchen noise behind her was a steady roar, shouted orders, clattering pans, the hiss of something hitting a hot surface. She didn't look up. Looking up meant making eye contact. Eye contact meant conversation. Conversation meant time, and time meant missing the 11:47 bus home to Maya. Lena, you're on Section 3 tonight. Marcus, the floor manager, appeared beside her with his tablet, already moving on to the next problem before she could respond. VIP party at 8, 6 top, high maintenance. Got it. She finished the last napkin and carried the stack toward the dining room, pushing through the heavy door with her shoulder. The restaurant transformed on the other side of that door. Dim amber lighting, soft jazz bleeding from hidden speakers, the murmur of wealth disguised as conversation. Mercado. That's what the brass letters outside said. Inside, it meant $200 steaks and people who didn't look at price tags. Lena had been working here for 14 months. She could count on one hand the number of times a customer had looked directly at her face. She preferred it that way. Section 3 was the private alcove near the back, half hidden behind frosted glass panels, with a view of the kitchen if you knew where to look. The table was already set. Lena checked the alignment of the forks, adjusted a water glass that didn't need adjusting, and retreated to the shadows near the bar. 7:47 p.m. Her phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out just enough to see the screen. Maya, Mom, when you coming home? Lena, late tonight, baby. Mrs. Chen staying with you? Maya, yeah, she's making me do homework. Lena, good. Love you. Maya, love you too. She slipped the phone back and exhaled slowly. 12 more hours. 12 hours and she'd have enough for this month's rent, and maybe she could finally register for that CNA course at the community college. Certified nursing assistant. It wasn't much, but it was a start. One step closer to something better than this. The front door opened. Lena felt it before she saw it. That shift in atmosphere when someone walks into a room and gravity bends toward them. Conversation stuttered. The hostess straightened her spine. Even Marcus appeared from nowhere, smoothing his tie. The man who entered didn't look like he belonged in the rain. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair pushed back from a face that could have been carved from something harder than flesh. Expensive suit, the kind that didn't wrinkle. No umbrella. No visible wetness despite the downpour outside. He moved through the restaurant like he owned not just the building, but the air inside it. Behind him, 3 men followed. Different suits, same energy. One of them scanned the room with eyes that lingered too long on exits. Marcus practically bowed. Mr. Voss, your table is ready. So this was Adrian Voss. Lena had heard the name. Whispers in the kitchen, mostly. Real estate developer. Or venture capitalist. Or something else entirely, depending on who was talking. The kind of man who had lawyers instead of friends and made problems disappear with phone calls. She watched from her position near the bar as Marcus led the group toward Section 3, her section. Her stomach tightened. VIP tables meant precision, no mistakes, no attention. She gave them 90 seconds to settle before approaching. Good evening, gentlemen. Can I start you with something to drink? 3 of them ordered scotch. Adrian Voss looked at her for exactly 2 seconds, long enough that she felt her pulse spike, and said, water, still. No ice. His voice was quiet, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't need to rise to be heard. Right away. She turned and walked back toward the bar, feeling the weight of those 2 seconds on her shoulders. Something about the way he'd looked at her. Not through her, like most customers. At her. Like he'd actually registered that another human being stood in front of him. It made her nervous. The bartender had the scotches ready before she finished the order. She loaded them onto her tray along with a bottle of San Pellegrino and a glass, then made her way back to section 3. The men were talking in low voices. She caught fragments as she approached. Can't keep pushing the timeline. Vote is next week. We need guarantees. Liability if it goes sideways. She set down the scotches first, working clockwise around the table. The men barely paused their conversation. When she reached Adrian Voss, he was reading something on his phone, thumb scrolling slowly. Your water, sir. Thank you. She poured carefully, watching the water level rise in the glass. Her hand was steady. It was always steady. Steady hands, invisible presence. That's how you survived in a place like this. She was turning to leave when the man to Adrian's right spoke. You should try the ribeye, Adrian. It's excellent here. Thomas something. Lena had seen him before. Regular customer, always loud, always treating servers like furniture. He was older than Adrian, maybe 50, with silver hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. I'm sure it is, Adrian said, not looking up from his phone. They dry age it for 40 days. Local farm, sustainable practices, all that bullshit people care about now. I'll keep it in mind. Lena finished pouring and stepped back. I'll give you a few minutes with the menu. No need, Thomas said, finally acknowledging her existence. We'll order now. I'll have the ribeye, medium rare. Start us with the oysters, 2 dozen. She wrote it down, then looked at the others. They ordered quickly, efficiently. When she got to Adrian, he closed his phone. The branzino, grilled, not roasted. Of course. She collected the menus and headed back toward the kitchen, processing the order in her head. 2 dozen oysters, 3 steaks, 1 fish. Sides. Timing. Marcus would want everything perfect for this table. The kitchen swallowed her into its chaos. Ordering. She clipped the ticket to the line. 2 dozen oysters, 3 ribeye mid-rare, 1 branzino grilled, 4 side roasted potatoes, 2 Brussels, 1 creamed spinach. Heard. She moved to the next task, then the next. A foretop in section 7 needed water refills. A couple near the window wanted dessert menus. The mechanical rhythm of service pulled her along. Read the table. Anticipate the need. Stay invisible. Keep moving. 20 minutes later, she returned to section 3 with the oysters. The conversation had shifted. The energy felt different, tighter, like a wire pulled taut. She arranged the oyster plate in the center of the table and began distributing small plates. Not saying it's personal, one of the men was saying. I'm saying it's business, and business requires certain assurances. You have my assurances, Adrian said. Your word isn't enough anymore. Not after Chicago. Adrian's jaw tightened. Lena saw it. Just a fraction of movement, but she'd learned to read micro-expressions. When you spent years being invisible, you got good at watching. She finished with the plates and stepped back. Enjoy. No one responded. She retreated to her position near the bar, but she couldn't stop watching the table. Something felt wrong. The body language was all off. Too rigid, too controlled. Thomas kept touching his water glass but never drinking from it. The man across from Adrian had barely moved in 5 minutes. Lena had spent 6 years navigating the kinds of places where reading a room kept you safe. Dive bars where fights started over nothing. Late-night diners where junkies nodded off in corner booths. This felt like that. Different tax bracket, same danger. She busied herself wiping down already clean surfaces, staying close enough to monitor the table. 15 minutes passed. The oysters sat mostly untouched. Lena, Marcus appeared beside her. Stop hovering. You're making them uncomfortable. Sorry. Go check on section 7. She nodded and moved away, but she kept the alcove in her peripheral vision. Through the frosted glass, she could see shapes, movement. Thomas leaned forward, saying something. Adrian leaned back. Then Thomas reached for something on the table. Lena's angle shifted as she walked. For just a moment, the frosted glass cleared and she saw it. Thomas's hand hovering over Adrian's water glass. A quick movement, barely perceptible. Something small dropped from his palm into the liquid. A subtle splash. His fingers closed around his own glass immediately after, a gesture that looked natural unless you knew to watch for it. Her breath caught. She stopped walking. Her brain ran through possibilities in rapid succession. She'd imagined it. She'd seen wrong. It was ice or a lemon wedge or nothing. But Thomas had used his left hand. Who reaches across their body to adjust someone else's drink? And Adrian's glass was the only one that had been clear water. She looked at the table again. Adrian was still talking, his phone face down now, his attention on the man across from him. His hand rested near his water glass. In maybe 30 seconds, he'd reach for it. Muscle memory, automatic. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't her problem. She was nobody. She didn't see anything. Walk away. Finish your shift. Go home to Maya. Adrian's hand moved toward the glass. Lena moved faster. She crossed the floor in 4 strides, her empty tray swinging from her hand. The men looked up as she approached. She could feel Marcus's stare burning into her back from across the room. "So sorry," she said, and her voice sounded steadier than she felt. "I think I—" She swung the tray. Not hard, just enough. It caught the edge of Adrian's water glass, tipping it. Water spread across the white tablecloth in a rapid bloom, soaking menus dripping onto Adrian's lap. "Oh my God!" Lena grabbed napkins, already dabbing at the mess. "I'm so sorry. I'm so clumsy." The table erupted in motion. Adrian pushed his chair back, standing. Water dripped from his pants. The other men grabbed their phones, lifting them out of harm's way. "Jesus," Thomas muttered. "I'm so sorry," Lena repeated, her hands shaking now, not from nerves, from adrenaline. "Let me get you. I'll get towels. It's fine," Adrian said. She looked up at him. Their eyes met. His were dark, unreadable. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The noise of the restaurant faded into background static. She could see him processing what had just happened, the speed of her movement, the angle of impact, the fact that she'd crossed the room like someone running toward danger instead of away from it. He knew. She didn't know how, but she could see it in his face. He knew. "It's fine," he repeated, quieter this time. Marcus materialized beside her, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Mr. Voss, I apologize profusely. Lena, get towels, now." She fled toward the kitchen, her entire body vibrating. Behind her, she could hear Marcus continuing the apology, offering to comp the meal, to replace Adrian's drink. In the kitchen, she braced herself against the stainless steel counter and tried to breathe. "You good?" Carlos, one of the line cooks, looked over at her. "Yeah, just clumsy." "Marcus is gonna lose his shit." "I know." She grabbed a stack of clean towels and headed back out. The table had been partially cleared. Someone had spread extra napkins over the worst of the water damage. Adrian sat down again, his expression neutral. Thomas was on his phone, typing furiously. Lena handed towels to Adrian. "Again, I'm so sorry." "Don't worry about it." She started soaking up water from the table, working quickly, keeping her eyes down. Her hands still shook. She clenched them tighter around the towels. "I'll get you fresh water," she said. "No." She stopped, looked at him. "I'm good with wine," Adrian said. "Red, whatever you recommend." The statement felt weighted, heavy, like he was telling her something without saying it. Lena nodded slowly. "I'll bring the list." She gathered the soaked linens and retreated again, her mind racing. Had she actually seen something? Or had she just assaulted a customer's drink because of paranoia born from too many late shifts and not enough sleep? Thomas's hand over the glass. The quick movement. The way he'd looked at Adrian right after, checking to see if he'd noticed. No, she'd seen it, which meant she'd just stopped something bad. Really bad. Which meant whoever Thomas was, whatever he'd tried to do, he knew she'd interfered. Lena's stomach turned cold. The rest of service passed in a blur. She brought the wine list. Adrian chose a Bordeaux. She poured it carefully, her hands steady again through sheer force of will. The entrees came out. The men ate. Conversation resumed, but quieter now, more careful. Thomas didn't look at her once. That scared her more than if he had. At 10:35, the table paid and left. Adrian added a 40% tip to the bill without commenting. As they walked past her toward the exit, he paused. "Thank you for your service tonight." The words were ordinary. The tone wasn't. Then he was gone. and she was alone in Section 3, staring at the empty table. Marcus found her 5 minutes later. "What the hell was that?" "I said I was sorry. You nearly dumped water on Adrian Voss. Do you have any idea who he is?" "I know, it was an accident." Marcus stared at her, his jaw working. Finally, he shook his head. "Clean up. Clock out. We'll talk tomorrow about whether you still have a job here." "Marcus." "Tomorrow, Lena." He walked away. She bussed the table in silence, stacking plates, folding the water-stained linens. When she picked up Adrian's wine glass, she noticed he'd barely touched it. The burgundy liquid sat nearly full, untouched, like he'd ordered it just to make a point. She finished closing her section and clocked out at 11:23. If she ran, she could still make the bus. The kitchen exit opened into an alley, rain still falling but lighter now. She pulled her jacket tighter and started walking. 3 steps into the alley, someone spoke from the shadows. "Lena Carter." She spun around. Adrian Voss stood near the dumpster, somehow looking immaculate despite having waited in a trash alley in the rain. One of the men from dinner stood behind him, the quiet one who'd barely spoken. Lena's hand moved toward her phone in her pocket. "Don't run," Adrian said. His voice was still quiet, still controlled. "I just want to talk." "I don't know what—" "Yes, you do." The rain filled the silence between them. Lena's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. "What did you see?" Adrian asked. "Nothing." "Try again?" She wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But something in his voice stopped her. Not a threat exactly. More like gravity. The same thing she'd felt when he walked into the restaurant. "I saw someone put something in your water," she said finally. "Who?" "The man sitting to your right. Silver hair." "Thomas Crane." "I don't know his name." Adrian took a step forward. Not threatening, just closer. "You're sure? You saw him do it?" "Yes." "Why didn't you call the police?" She stopped. Why hadn't she? "I didn't think. I just reacted. You reacted by spilling water on me. It was all I could think of." He studied her face for a long moment. The rain fell. A car passed on the street beyond the alley, headlights sweeping across them briefly before darkness returned. "Do you know what he put in the glass?" Adrian asked. "No." "Take a guess." Her mouth went dry. "Poison?" "Close enough." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small vial, holding it up to what little light existed. Clear liquid. Ricin, colorless, odorless. Symptoms start in 2 to 6 hours. Looks like food poisoning at first. By the time anyone figures it out, you're dead. Lena couldn't breathe. "Thomas has been my partner for 8 years, Adrian continued, his voice flat. "We built 2 companies together. I was the best man at his wedding. Last week I found out he's been embezzling money to cover gambling debts. Tonight, he decided to solve that problem permanently." "How do you—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Because I had someone swap the vials before dinner." Adrian slipped the ricin back into his pocket. "He poisoned water that was already being monitored. I wanted to see if he'd actually go through with it." "You knew?" "I suspected. You confirmed it." Lena felt dizzy. "Then why are you telling me this?" "Because Thomas saw you spill that water. He saw my reaction, and now he knows the plan failed." Adrian moved closer, and Lena's back hit the brick wall behind her. "Which means he knows you saw something, which makes you a problem for him." "I didn't see anything," she said quickly. "I'll forget it. I won't say anything to anyone." "Do you think that matters?" Her hands were shaking again. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to stay alive," Adrian said. "Which means we need to move quickly." "Move where?" "Somewhere safe." "I'm not going anywhere with you." The words came out sharper than she intended. "I don't know you. I have a daughter. I have to go home." That stopped him. "You have a daughter," he repeated. "Yes. She's 6. She's waiting for me." Adrian's expression shifted, something that might have been regret crossing his face briefly. He looked at the man behind him, some wordless communication passing between them, then back at Lena. "Where do you live?" "Why?" "Because if Thomas thinks you're a witness, he'll find out everything about you. Your address, your daughter's school, where you shop, where you bank, everyone you know." Adrian's voice stayed level, but there was something underneath it now. Urgency. He has resources, and he has people who solve problems for money. Lena felt cold spreading through her chest. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to save your life. By what? Taking me somewhere? Keeping me locked up? By keeping Thomas's attention on me, not you. But I need to know you're protected while I handle this. Handle it how? You don't want to know. She stared at him. The rain kept falling. She thought of Maya, probably asleep by now, Mrs. Chen on the couch watching some Korean drama. She thought of her apartment. 3 rooms on the 5th floor, bars on the windows. A deadbolt that stuck. She thought of the bus she'd already missed and the next one that wouldn't come for an hour. I can't just disappear, she said. I have a job, I have bills, my daughter has school. Your job is gone. Marcus is going to fire you tomorrow. He can't afford to upset someone like me, and keeping you employed would be a liability. As for bills, he pulled out his phone, typed something. What's your Venmo? What? Your Venmo. Or Zelle, however you want it. I'm not taking money from you. It's not a gift. It's payment for services rendered. You saved my life tonight. That's worth something. I don't want... Lena. He said her name like he'd known it for years. Your daughter needs you alive. Whatever you're about to say about pride or independence, save it. I'm offering you a way through this. Take it. She wanted to say no. Wanted to walk away, go home, pretend this night never happened. But the way he looked at her, like he could see all the math she was doing in her head, all the impossible calculations of survival, made it clear that walking away wasn't actually an option. Not anymore. At Lena Carter, she whispered. He typed. A second later, her phone buzzed. She pulled it out. $5,000 from Adrian Voss note. First installment. She stared at the screen. $5,000. More money than she'd made in the last 4 months combined. What first installment? She asked. There'll be more. After. He pocketed his phone. Now. Your address. She told him. He relayed it to the man behind him, who disappeared into the rain without a word. What's he doing? Lena asked. Making sure your daughter gets somewhere safe. Safe where? A hotel, Midtown. Nice place. Under a different name. Someone I trust is picking her up right now with Mrs. Chen. They'll stay there until this is over. Panic spiked through her. You sent someone to my apartment? To my daughter. Someone with a badge and a very good explanation. Your neighbor won't question it. How do you know? Because I know a lot of things, Lena. That's how I stay alive. He gestured toward the street. My car is 2 blocks away. We can walk there, or I can call it here. But we're leaving, now. She looked at the alley exit, looked back at him. If I say no? Then you take your chances. Maybe Thomas doesn't come after you. Maybe he has bigger problems to worry about than a waitress who spilled water. Maybe you're right, and I'm paranoid, and everything will be fine. He paused. But I've been doing this a long time, and when someone tries to kill me, they don't leave loose ends. The weight of the decision pressed down on her. Every choice had a cost. Every move forward meant something lost. But she thought of Maya's face, her daughter's laugh, the way she always waited up even when Lena told her not to. Okay, she said quietly. Adrian nodded once. Let's go. They walked through the rain-slicked streets of Manhattan, 2 figures among thousands, invisible in the way only a city this size allowed. Lena kept her phone in her hand, checking it every 30 seconds. No messages, no calls. She's fine, Adrian said. You don't know that. I do. They reached a black sedan parked on a side street. Adrian opened the back door. Lena hesitated for just a moment, one last second to turn around, run, choose a different story, then climbed inside. The door closed behind her. The city blurred past the window as they drove. Lena watched the lights streak by, each one a life she'd never touch, a story she'd never know. She thought about the invisible crack that had just opened in her world, how one moment had split her life into before and after, how sometimes staying silent isn't survival. Sometimes it's just another way of disappearing, and she was done being invisible. The car stopped in front of a building Lena had walked past 100 times but never really seen. Glass and steel, 30 stories, the kind of place where doormen wore gloves and knew everyone's name. Adrian got out first, then held the door for her. She stepped onto the sidewalk, feeling suddenly aware of her work clothes. The wrinkled black pants, the white shirt, with a coffee stain near the collar she'd tried to hide with her apron. This way. He led her through the lobby. The doorman nodded without speaking. The elevator arrived silently, all mirrors and polished brass. Adrian pressed the button for the 28th floor. The doors closed and Lena watched their reflections rise. "Is this where you live?" she asked. "Sometimes." "What does that mean?" "It means I have several places. This one's secure." The elevator opened directly into an apartment. Not a hallway with doors, just straight into a living space that took up the entire floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed Manhattan spread out like a circuit board, lights pulsing in the dark. Lena stood in the entryway, unsure whether to take off her shoes. "You can sit," Adrian said, shrugging off his jacket. Underneath, his shirt was still damp from the spilled water. He draped the jacket over a chair and walked toward what looked like a bar area. "You want something to drink?" "Where's my daughter?" He pulled out his phone, tapped the screen, then turned it toward her. A video feed showed a hotel room, clean, bright, 2 beds. Maya sat on one of them in her pajamas, Mrs. Chen beside her, both of them watching something on a tablet. Lena's chest loosened slightly. "Can I talk to her?" "Not yet. No phones. Nothing Thomas can trace." "She's going to be scared." "Mrs. Chen will handle it. She's been told Maya's mother had a work emergency and will be back tomorrow." "Kids believe what you tell them with confidence." "That's bullshit," Lena said, surprised by the edge in her own voice. "She's 6, not stupid. She knows when something's wrong." Adrian set his phone down on the counter. "You're right. I apologize." The apology caught her off guard. She'd expected him to double down, not concede. "Can I at least call Mrs. Chen?" Lena asked. "In an hour, after we make sure no one followed us." He poured amber liquid into a glass. Whiskey, probably. Something expensive. "You hungry?" "No." "When's the last time you ate?" She tried to remember. "A protein bar around 3? "I don't know." "There's food in the kitchen. Help yourself." "I'm fine." He looked at her for a moment, then nodded and took his drink to the window. Lena stood in the middle of the room, still not sitting, her wet shoes leaving marks on the hardwood floor. "You can relax," Adrian said without turning around. "I don't think I can." "Fair." Silence settled between them. Lena studied the apartment. Minimalist furniture. No photographs. Nothing personal except a stack of books on the coffee table. The spines were worn, actually read. She moved closer and tilted her head to see the titles. Economics textbooks. A biography of some industrialist she'd never heard of. One novel, its cover creased. "You live here alone?" she asked. "Most of the time." "That must be lonely." "It's practical." She finally sat down on the couch, perching on the edge like she might need to run. Her phone buzzed. She grabbed it fast, but it was just a notification from her bank. The 5,000 had cleared. "I still don't understand why you gave me this money," she said. Adrian turned from the window. "You saved my life. You said you already knew about the poison." "I knew Thomas might try something. I didn't know when or how. You confirmed it, and you acted without hesitation. That's worth paying for." "It wasn't about money." "I know. That's exactly why I'm paying you." The logic made her head hurt. She set her phone down and rubbed her temples. The adrenaline was wearing off now, leaving behind a bone-deep exhaustion that made her whole body ache. "How long do I have to stay here?" she asked. 48 hours, maybe less. "And then what?" "Then it's over." "You keep saying that. What does over mean?" He took a long drink, still standing by the window. "It means Thomas won't be a problem anymore." "Are you going to kill him?" "No." "Then what are you going to do?" "Something worse." He set the glass down. "You should sleep. There's a bedroom through there. Lock the door if it makes you feel better." "I'm not tired." "You will be." He wasn't wrong. The crash was already starting, that hollowed-out feeling that came after too much fear and not enough food. But the thought of sleeping in a stranger's apartment, even one who'd just paid her $5,000, made her skin crawl. "I'd rather stay out here," she said. "Suit yourself." He disappeared down a hallway. Lena heard a door close, then water running. She pulled out her phone again and opened her messages. Lena. Mrs. Chen, can you tell Maya I'm okay? She waited. The message showed as delivered but not read. Maybe Mrs. Chen's phone was off. Or maybe Adrian's people had taken it. The thought made her angry in a way she couldn't quite articulate. She stood and walked to the windows. The city stretched endlessly in every direction. She found herself looking for her neighborhood, somewhere southeast past the grid, where the buildings got shorter and the streets got darker. She couldn't see it from here. Too far. Different world. Her phone buzzed. Unknown. This is Sarah Chen. Maya is asleep. She is safe. I will tell her you said goodnight. Lena read it 3 times, then typed back. Lena, thank you. No response. She didn't expect one. The apartment made small sounds. The hum of climate control, the distant groan of plumbing, the city noise muted to almost nothing by the thick windows. Lena pulled a blanket off the back of the couch and wrapped it around her shoulders. She meant to just rest her eyes for a minute. She woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. Jesus. She sat up fast, disoriented. The blanket fell to the floor. Adrian stood in the kitchen area, fully dressed in different clothes, jeans, a dark shirt. He looked like he'd slept 8 hours and gone for a run. What time is it? Lena asked. 7:30. I need to sit. She stopped. She didn't know what she needed to do. Everything that usually structured her mornings, wake Maya, make breakfast, catch the bus, none of it applied here. Coffee's on the counter, Adrian said. Mugs in the cabinet above. She walked over on unsteady legs, her body stiff from sleeping on the couch. The coffee was fresh, dark. She poured a cup and added milk from the fridge, which was mostly empty except for basics. No family-size anything, no leftover containers covered in plastic wrap. Just bottles and cartons, all perfectly arranged. Did you sleep at all? She asked. Some. You don't look like you slept some. I rarely do. He was doing something on a laptop, his attention split between the screen and his phone. I have a meeting at 9. You'll stay here. For how long? I told you, 48 hours. That was 12 hours ago. Then 36 hours. She sat down at the counter with her coffee. Her reflection caught in the window, hair a mess, yesterday's makeup smudged, shirt wrinkled beyond saving. She looked like exactly what she was. Someone who'd been pulled out of their life and dropped somewhere she didn't belong. Can I at least see Maya? She asked. After the meeting, I'll have her brought here. You keep talking about having people do things. Who are these people? Associates. That's not an answer. He looked up from his laptop. People I pay to solve problems. Legal problems? Sometimes. That's terrifying. It's efficient. She sipped her coffee. It was better than anything she'd ever made at home. What's your meeting about? Thomas? Are you going to see him? Not directly. I'm meeting with the board of our company. By the time I'm done, Thomas won't have a job, access to any accounts, or a single person willing to work with him. You're destroying his life. He tried to kill me. Shouldn't you go to the police? And tell them what? That my business partner I've accused of embezzling tried to poison me at dinner, except I switched the poison beforehand, and the only witness is a waitress who spilled water? They'd laugh me out of the precinct. He closed the laptop. No, this gets handled my way. Which is? Financial ruin, social exile, every bridge burned. By the end of the week, Thomas Crane won't be able to get a loan at a pawn shop, let alone show his face at any business function in this city. Lena set down her cup. That seems excessive. He was going to murder me. I know, but what? I should be merciful, give him a second chance? Adrian's voice stayed level, but something harder moved underneath it. People like Thomas don't learn lessons. They learn how to be more careful next time. The only way to stop them is to make sure there is no next time. That's dark. That's survival. She wanted to argue, but she couldn't find the words. Maybe because part of her understood. She'd spent 6 years making sure she stayed small, stayed quiet, stayed invisible, because the moment someone noticed you, they could hurt you. Adrian's version was louder, more aggressive, but the logic was the same. Protect yourself before someone else doesn't. I should shower, she said finally. There's clothes in the bedroom, left closet. Take whatever fits. Whose clothes? No one's. I keep things on hand for situations like this. You've done this before? Brought random women to your apartment? Not women. Associates who need somewhere secure. The clothes are generic. He gestured down the hallway. Go ahead. She found the bedroom. Huge bed, white sheets, more windows. The closet held exactly what he described. Plain shirts, jeans, leggings, underwear still in packages. All in different sizes. Like a witness protection program run by someone with too much money and not enough emotional attachment to waste time asking questions. She grabbed the basics and locked herself in the bathroom. The shower was one of those rainfall things that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She stood under the water longer than she should have, letting it wash away the restaurant smell, the fear sweat, the lingering sense that none of this was real. When she finally got out, the mirror was fogged completely. She wiped it clear and stared at her face. Same brown eyes, same scar on her chin from falling off a bike when she was 8. Same everything, but something felt different, like she'd crossed a line she couldn't see but could feel in her bones. She got dressed and came back out to find Adrian on the phone, speaking quietly in what sounded like Chinese. He held up one finger, "Give me a minute," and turned toward the window. Lena wandered to the bookshelf. More textbooks. A few thrillers. One shelf dedicated entirely to architecture books, their pages filled with glossy photos of buildings that looked like sculptures. "Sorry," Adrian said, ending the call. "We're set. Maya will be here in an hour." Relief flooded through her. "Thank you. You'll stay in the apartment. My head of security will be outside. If you need anything, call him." He handed her a phone, new, different from her own. "This is clean. No one can trace it. I already have a phone, which Thomas can track if he wants to. Use this one." He was already moving toward the door, grabbing his jacket. "I'll be back by noon." "Wait!" But he was gone, the elevator closing before she could finish the question she hadn't fully formed. Something like, "What happens if you don't come back?" Or maybe, "Why are you doing this?" She stood alone in the too big apartment, holding a phone that wasn't hers, wearing clothes that weren't hers, waiting for her daughter in a life that definitely wasn't hers. The next hour crawled past. Lena tried to sit still, couldn't, ended up pacing the apartment like a trapped animal. She counted windows, 42, counted books, 73. Tried to watch TV but couldn't focus on any of the channels. Her new phone had no contacts except one, security. At 8:47 the elevator opened. Maya burst out first, still in her pajamas but with her jacket on over them. "Mom!" Lena dropped to her knees and caught her daughter in a hug that felt like oxygen. "Baby, hi. I'm so sorry. Mrs. Chen said you had a work thing." Maya pulled back, studying her face with that unnerving 6-year-old intensity. "But you never have work things at night." I know. It was unexpected." "Are you in trouble?" "No, honey. Everything's fine." "Then why are we in a fancy hotel?" Maya looked around the apartment, eyes wide. "This isn't a hotel. This is like a movie house." Mrs. Chen stepped out of the elevator more slowly, carrying an overnight bag. She looked exhausted. "The men said to bring her here. They said you would explain." "Thank you, Mrs. Chen. I'm sorry for all of this." "They paid me." She set down the bag. "A lot. Enough that I did not ask questions." "That seems to be his strategy," Lena muttered. "The man who paid me. He said Maya can stay here today? That you are taking time off work?" "Yes, that's right." Mrs. Chen studied her face for a long moment, and Lena saw the question forming. "What have you gotten into?" But the older woman just nodded. "You have my number if you need me." "I do, thank you." After Mrs. Chen left, Maya immediately began exploring the apartment, running from room to room with the kind of energy only kids had in the morning. "Mom, there's like 100 windows, and the bathroom has 2 sinks, and there's a TV in the bedroom." "I see that. Whose house is this?" "A friend's." "What friend? You don't have friends." The statement landed harder than it should have. "I have friends." "Name one." Lena opened her mouth, then closed it. Jesus. Her 6-year-old had just called her out. "I have work friends." "That doesn't count. Work friends are just people you're nice to so you don't get fired." Maya flopped onto the couch. "Can we stay here forever?" "No, baby. Just for a little while." Why not? It's way better than our place. Our place is perfectly fine. Our place has roaches. That's... Lena stopped. Their place did have roaches. Okay, but this isn't ours. We can't just stay. Maya sighed dramatically, like Lena was being unreasonable. Fine. Can I at least watch TV? Sure. She turned on some cartoon Lena didn't recognize and settled into the couch cushions. Lena sat beside her, running her fingers through Maya's hair, needing the physical contact to ground herself. This was real. Maya was safe. Everything else could be dealt with. Her phone buzzed. The clean one. Adrian. How is she, Lena? Good. Watching TV. Adrian. Good. Meeting's running long. I'll be back by 2. Lena. Okay. She set the phone down and tried to focus on the cartoon. Something about talking animals solving mysteries. Maya laughed at a joke Lena didn't catch. The sound filled the apartment. Proof of life. Proof that some things stayed the same even when everything else went sideways. Adrian didn't come back at 2. Or 3. At 3:45, Lena's anxiety had graduated into full panic. She'd texted twice, called once. No answer. Maya had moved from cartoons to coloring at the kitchen counter, oblivious to her mother's spiraling thoughts about what happened when powerful men didn't come home. The elevator opened at 4:02. Adrian stepped out, and Lena felt her whole body unclench. He looked tired, actually tired, not just controlled exhaustion. His tie was gone, his shirt collar open. He set down a leather bag and noticed Maya at the counter. Hi, he said. Maya looked up, unimpressed. Who are you? Adrian. Is this your house? One of them. How many houses do you have? Maya, Lena said quickly. That's rude. It's a question. It's still rude. Adrian almost smiled. Almost. 3 apartments, 1 house upstate. You must be Maya. Obviously. Maya, Lena warned again. What? He knows my name. That means someone told him about me. I'm just confirming. Adrian did smile this time, brief but real. You're right. Your mother told me about you. What did she say? That you're 6 and smarter than most adults. That's true. Maya went back to her coloring. Are you the work emergency? In a way. Are you going to pay my mom a lot of money? Maya? He already did, Adrian said. Your mother helped me with something important. What thing? Maya, that's enough questions, Lena said firmly. She stood and crossed to Adrian, lowering her voice. What happened? You said 2. The meeting went longer than expected. Thomas showed up. Her stomach dropped. He knows? He knows I know. He doesn't know about you yet. Adrian looked past her at Maya, then back. Can we talk privately? They moved to the far end of the apartment, near the windows, out of earshot. Maya kept coloring, humming something off-key. Thomas denied everything, Adrian said quietly. Claimed I was paranoid, that the stress was getting to me. He made it sound reasonable enough that 2 board members actually sided with him. But you have the vial. Which proves nothing without a witness. Just my word against his, and he spent 8 years building credibility with these people. He rubbed his face. I froze his accounts, locked him out of the company systems, called in every favor I had to spread the word that he's toxic. But it's not enough. He's smart. He'll rebuild. So what do? I'm working on it. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. He looked at Maya again. How much have you told her? Nothing. She thinks it's a work thing. Keep it that way. I'm not an idiot. I didn't say you were. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen, declined it. I need to make some calls. There's food being delivered at 6. Stay as long as you need. He disappeared into one of the back rooms. Lena stood by the window, watching the city shift in the late afternoon light. Behind her, Maya started singing the cartoon theme song, badly and loudly. Normal kid sounds in an abnormal situation. Lena's real phone buzzed in her pocket. The old one. She pulled it out. 3 missed calls from a number she didn't recognize, then a text. We should talk. Her blood went cold. Another text. I know you saw something. I'd like to clear the air. No name, no signature. But she knew. Somehow, she knew. Her hand shook as she walked quickly to the room where Adrian had gone. She knocked once, then pushed the door open. He was on the phone but stopped mid-sentence when he saw her face. "I'll call you back." He hung up. "What's wrong?" She held out her phone. "Thomas found me." Adrian took the phone from her hand, his jaw tightening as he read the messages. He scrolled up, checking the call log, then tapped something on the screen. His expression didn't change, but Lena saw his shoulders tense. "How did he get this number?" she asked. "Employee records at the restaurant. Or he paid someone at your phone carrier. Doesn't matter." He handed the phone back. "Don't respond." "What if he keeps calling?" "He will. That's the point. He wants you scared." Adrian pulled out his own phone and typed rapidly. "I'm having your number changed. New phone, new service. This one goes dark in 10 minutes. Won't that make it obvious I'm hiding?" "You are hiding. No point pretending otherwise." He looked at her directly. "Did you tell anyone where you were going last night? Anyone at all?" "No, I didn't know where I was going." "What about Mrs. Chen? Did she mention anything to neighbors?" "I don't think so. She was asleep when your people picked her up." "Good." He walked past her, back toward the living room. Maya had moved to the couch, her coloring book spread across the coffee table. Adrian stopped in the doorway, studying her for a moment before turning back to Lena. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to answer honestly." "Okay." "Are you willing to testify?" The question hit her like cold water. "Testify where?" "Anywhere it matters. Police? Lawyers? A judge? If it comes to that. Tell exactly what you saw." Lena's mouth went dry. "You said the police wouldn't believe me." "They wouldn't, not without corroboration. But if I can build a case, financial records, witness statements, proof of motive, your testimony becomes the thread that ties it together. It stops being his word against mine, and becomes his word against mine and yours." "Yes." She looked past him at Maya, who was now singing again, completely absorbed in turning a butterfly purple. "What happens to my daughter if I say yes?" "I keep you both safe." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." "That's not an answer." "It's the only one I have." He said it without apology, just fact. "Thomas is desperate. Desperate people don't think long-term. They think survival. Right now, his survival depends on making sure you can't talk. So if I testify, I paint a bigger target on my back." "You already have a target. Testifying just gives it a purpose." Lena pressed her palms against her eyes, trying to think through the fear. She'd spent 6 years being invisible, specifically to avoid situations like this. Every decision calibrated for safety. Don't make waves. Don't draw attention. Keep your head down and maybe you'll make it through. "I need to think about it," she said finally. "You have until tomorrow morning. After that, I'm moving forward with or without you." "That's not much time." "It's what we have." He walked back to the kitchen and started making calls again, his voice low and clipped. Lena stood frozen in the hallway, feeling the walls close in. Maya looked up from her coloring. "Mom, are you okay?" "Yeah, baby, I'm fine." "You look sad." "Just tired." "Is it because of work?" Lena crossed to the couch and sat down beside her daughter. "Kind of. Are you going to lose your job?" The question shouldn't have surprised her. Maya was perceptive in ways that constantly caught her off guard. "Maybe. I don't know yet." "That's okay. You'll find another one. You're really good at working." Maya went back to coloring. "And this guy has a lot of money. Maybe he'll give you a job here." "I don't think it works like that." "Why not? He has a big house and no one to clean it. You're good at cleaning." "Thanks, baby." "I'm just saying." Maya added yellow to the butterfly. "You should ask him." Food arrived at 6, like Adrian had promised. Thai, way too much of it, spread across the counter in white containers. Maya attacked the pad Thai like she hadn't eaten in days. Lena picked at some spring rolls, her appetite still missing. Adrian barely touched anything, too focused on his laptop and the calls that kept coming. At 7, Maya started getting tired, the adrenaline of the day finally wearing off. Lena found a cartoon movie on the TV and they curled up on the couch together, Maya's head heavy against her shoulder. Halfway through, her daughter fell asleep, breathing deep and even. "I can carry her to the bedroom," Adrian said quietly from behind them. It's okay. I've got her. But when Lena tried to lift Maya, her back spasmed. Too many double shifts, too many years of carrying trays and boxes, and the weight of keeping everything together. She winced and Adrian stepped in without asking, scooping Maya up like she weighed nothing. Which room? The one I was in before. He carried Maya down the hallway, Lena following. The bedroom looked different in the evening light, softer, less sterile. Adrian laid Maya on the bed carefully, her head on the pillow, and stepped back. Lena pulled the blanket over her daughter and brushed hair from her face. She's out, Adrian said. She always crashes hard. Goes 100 miles an hour until she just stops. Lena kissed Maya's forehead. I should stay with her. There's a chair in the corner if you want. She pulled it over near the bed and sat down. Adrian lingered in the doorway, his silhouette dark against the hall light. Can I ask you something? Lena said. Yeah. Why are you doing all this? The money, the protection, everything. You could have just dealt with Thomas yourself and left me out of it. He was quiet for a moment. Because you didn't have to help me. You could have walked away, served the table, collected your tips, gone home. No one would have blamed you. I would have blamed me. Exactly. He pushed off the doorframe. Most people choose safety over what's right. You didn't. That's rare. Or stupid. Maybe both. He almost smiled. Get some rest. I'll be in the next room if you need anything. He left, closing the door most of the way. Lena sat in the chair, watching Maya sleep, her mind running through scenarios she didn't want to consider. What testifying would mean. What refusing would mean. Whether there was a third option she couldn't see yet. Her old phone buzzed in her pocket, one last gasp before Adrian's people killed the service. She pulled it out. Another message from the unknown number. Ignoring me won't make this go away. Then, I just want to talk, 5 minutes, that's all. And finally, I know about Maya. She's a beautiful kid. It would be a shame if something happened. Lena's vision went white at the edges. Her hand clenched around the phone so hard the case cracked. She stood up fast, nearly knocking over the chair, and walked out of the room. Adrian was in the living area, still on his laptop. He looked up when he heard her footsteps. He threatened Maya, she said, her voice shaking. Adrian stood immediately. Let me see. She handed him the phone. He read the messages, his expression going completely flat, the kind of flat that was somehow more frightening than anger. Okay, he said quietly. Okay? That's all you have to say? No. He set the phone down with deliberate care. I'm going to end this, tonight. How? You don't need to know. If it involves my daughter, I need to know everything. He looked at her for a long moment, and she saw something shift behind his eyes. A calculation being made, a decision reached. Thomas has been embezzling for 2 years. I have proof. Bank transfers, shell companies, forged signatures. I've been building the case slowly because I wanted to understand the full scope, but slow doesn't work anymore. So what are you going to do? I'm going to the FBI. Tonight. I give them everything. They arrest Thomas in the morning, and this ends. What if they don't believe you? They will. The evidence is solid. You said the board didn't believe you. The board has financial incentives to look the other way. The FBI doesn't. He grabbed his jacket from the back of a chair. I have copies of everything on a secured drive. There's a field agent I've worked with before. She's clean, thorough. She'll move fast. I'm coming with you. No. I'm the witness. I should be there. You should be here with your daughter. This part doesn't need you yet. If they want a statement, they'll schedule it properly, in a safe location with protection in place. He was already moving toward the elevator. Lock the door after I leave. Don't open it for anyone except me or security. The phone number I gave you, call it if anything feels wrong. Adrian, I'll be back in 3 hours, 4 at most. The elevator doors opened. Keep her safe. Then he was gone, and Lena was alone again with the silent apartment and her sleeping daughter, and a fear that felt like it had teeth. She locked the door like he'd said, checked all the windows even though they were 28 floors up, went back to Maya's room and sat in the chair, watching her daughter's chest rise and fall, each breath proof that they'd made it through another minute. The apartment made settling sounds as the temperature dropped outside. Lena's new phone sat dark and silent on the side table. The old one had finally died. Its screen black, service terminated, cut off from the world in a way that should have felt safe but just felt isolated. At 10:30, she heard something. Not from the apartment, from outside it. Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy. Unfamiliar. They stopped right outside the door. Lena's heart kicked into overdrive. She stood slowly, quietly, and moved to the bedroom door. Pulled it almost closed so Maya wouldn't see whatever was about to happen. Then she grabbed the only weapon she could find. A heavy bookend from the shelf, bronze, shaped like a lion's head. The footsteps moved away. She waited, barely breathing. Then they came back. Someone knocked. 3 sharp raps. "Miss Carter?" A man's voice, professional. "Security, Mr. Voss sent me to check on you." Lena moved toward the door but didn't open it. "I'm fine. I need to verify that visually, ma'am. Mr. Voss's orders. He didn't tell me anyone was coming. It's a random check, standard protocol." Something about the phrasing felt wrong, too smooth, like words practiced in advance. "What's your name?" A pause. "Davis?" "Okay, Davis, I'm going to call security and confirm, then I'll open the door." "Ma'am, there's no need." She was already dialing the number Adrian had given her. It rang once. "Security. This is Lena Carter. Someone's at the door claiming to be security. Says his name is Davis." Another pause, longer this time. "We don't have anyone named Davis. Don't open the door." Understood. She hung up. The footsteps outside hadn't moved. Whoever it was, they knew she'd called. Were probably listening right now, calculating their next move. "Miss Carter, I need you to open the door." "No." "Ms. Carter, I said no. Leave or I'm calling the police." Silence. Long enough that she thought maybe they'd left. Then the door handle turned, slowly, testing, finding the lock engaged. Something scraped against metal. A tool, maybe. Someone trying to bypass the lock. Lena ran back to the bedroom. Maya was still asleep, oblivious. She locked that door too, knowing it wouldn't stop anyone determined but needing the barrier anyway. Then she called the security number again. "They're trying to break in. I've already dispatched a team. 2 minutes out. Stay in the bedroom. Keep the door locked. What if they get in before, A crash from the living room. Glass breaking. Someone had just come through the window. "They're inside," Lena whispered. "Team is 90 seconds away. Do not engage." She dropped the phone and grabbed Maya, shaking her awake. "Baby, we need to go. Right now." "Mom?" Maya's eyes were heavy with sleep. "We're playing a game. Quiet game. Can you be completely silent?" Maya nodded, suddenly alert in that way kids got when they sensed real fear. Lena pulled her off of the bed and looked around frantically. The bedroom had nowhere to hide, no closet, no attached bathroom. She could hear footsteps in the living area now, plural. Multiple people searching. The window. She ran to it, looked down. 28 floors. Impossible. But there was a ledge, narrow, terrifying, running along the outside of the building. Fire code, maybe. Or architectural detail. Either way, it was 3 feet of concrete between them and a very long fall. "Mom, no." Maya had followed her gaze. "We don't have a choice." "I can't." "Yes, you can. I've got you." She unlocked the window and pushed it open. Cold air rushed in. The ledge looked even narrower from this angle. Lena climbed out first, her legs shaking, and held out her arms. "Come on, baby, just like monkey bars." "This is nothing like monkey bars." "Maya, please." Her daughter climbed out, moving slowly, her small hands gripping the window frame. Lena caught her and pulled her close, both of them pressed against the building, the wind whipping around them. Below, the city glittered indifferently. The bedroom door splintered inward. 2 men entered, dressed in dark clothes, faces covered. One went straight to the bed, yanking back the covers. The other spotted the open window and ran toward it. Lena pressed herself flatter against the wall, trying to make them both invisible. Maya buried her face in her mother's chest, not looking down. Smart girl. The man leaned out the window, looking left, then right. Lena held her breath. They were only 6 feet away from the window now, around the corner of the building where the ledge turned. If he leaned out far enough, if he looked at the right angle. Shouting from inside the apartment. Different voices. The security team. The man at the window pulled back inside. Rapid conversation she couldn't make out. Then footsteps running away. Elevator sounds, more shouting, silence. Lena waited, counting her heartbeats, feeling Maya shaking against her. The wind pushed at them, testing. She tightened her grip. "Miss Carter?" A new voice from inside. "Security, they're gone. You can come back in." She didn't move. "Miss Carter, I'm opening my wallet now. You can see my ID. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm head of security for Mr. Voss." A hand appeared through the window, holding a wallet open. She could see the ID, the photo matching the face that appeared a moment later. Asian man, maybe 40, with the kind of calm expression that came from seeing too much. "It's safe now," he said. Lena looked at Maya. Her daughter's face was pale, eyes too wide. "You ready to go back inside?" Maya nodded without speaking. Marcus helped them both through the window, his hand steady and professional. Once inside, Lena's legs gave out. She sat down hard on the floor, pulling Maya into her lap, and just held her. Maya started crying, silent tears, the kind that hurt more than noise. "I'm sorry," Lena whispered. "I'm so sorry, baby. I want to go home." "I know, soon." Marcus knelt down nearby, not crowding them. They came up through the elevator shaft, bypassed the security system. Professional team, well-funded. "How many?" Lena asked. "3. 2 came through your door, 1 through the window. They're gone now. We caught one on the stairwell. Police are handling it. Thomas sent them. Most likely. Where's Adrian?" "Still with the FBI. I've contacted him. He's on his way back." Maya pulled away from Lena and wiped her eyes. "I don't like this game. It's over now." "Promise?" Lena looked at Marcus, who gave the smallest shake of his head, a warning. "Don't make promises you can't keep." She turned back to Maya and pushed hair from her face. "I promise I'm going to keep you safe, no matter what." Took Adrian 40 minutes to get back. Lena heard the elevator before she saw him. He'd had Marcus override it to direct access. When the doors opened, he looked like he'd run the entire way. His shirt was untucked, hair disheveled, and there was something raw in his expression that she hadn't seen before. "You're okay." Not a question. A confirmation he needed to say out loud. "We're fine." He looked at Maya, who was back on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes red but dry. "Hey." "Hi," Maya said quietly. "I heard you were very brave." "I went on the ledge." "That's extremely brave." "It was scary." "I bet." He turned to Marcus. "The one you caught?" Lawyered up immediately, not talking. "Credentials?" "Former military, discharged 2 years ago. Works for a private security firm that specializes in—" Marcus glanced at Maya, lowered his voice. "Problem solving." "Contracted through?" "Still tracing it, but the firm has worked with Crane Industries before." Adrian's jaw clenched. "That's enough." "Enough for what?" Lena asked. "Enough to tie him directly to this. The FBI is moving on Thomas now. They're picking him up tonight." He looked at her with something like regret. "I'm sorry. I should have had more people here. I didn't think he'd move this fast." "You couldn't have known." "I should have known. This is what he does. When he's cornered, he goes for the throat." Adrian ran a hand through his hair. "You're both coming with me. Different location, more secure. No one knows about it except Marcus." "Where?" "House upstate, 2 hours north, private property, gated, full security system. You'll be safe there until this is done." Lena looked at Maya, who was watching them both with an expression far too old for her face. "Do we have a choice?" "Not really." "Then I guess we're going upstate." They left within the hour. Marcus drove them in an SUV with windows tinted so dark that Lena couldn't see out. Maya fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted beyond words. Lena sat beside her, one hand on her daughter's head, watching the city lights fade into darkness. Adrian sat in the front passenger seat, on his phone the entire time, his voice low as he coordinated with people she couldn't see. Every few minutes he'd glance back at them through the rearview mirror, checking, making sure they were still there, still real, still breathing. The house appeared after midnight, at the end of a long driveway cutting through woods. It was smaller than she'd expected. 2 stories, stone and wood, lights on inside. Not a mansion, more like a place someone actually lived. "This is where you really live," Lena said as Marcus parked. "Yeah, why not start here?" "Because Thomas knew about this place. Or I thought he did. Turns out he never actually visited. I just told him about it once. Sometimes the best hiding place is the one someone thinks they know." Marcus carried Maya inside while she slept. The house was warm, lived in. Actual photographs on the walls. Mountains, coastlines, a few with people Lena didn't recognize. Books on shelves that looked red, not decorative. A kitchen that had been used. Dishes in the sink. "Guest room is upstairs," Adrian said. "First door on the right." Lena followed Marcus up and watched him lay Maya on the bed. Her daughter didn't even stir. Too far gone into the kind of sleep that came after too much fear and not enough safety. "I'll be downstairs," Marcus said, leaving them alone. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, just watching Maya breathe. The silence felt different here, not empty like the apartment, but full, like the house itself was waiting for something. She heard footsteps on the stairs. Adrian appeared in the doorway holding 2 mugs. "Tea," he said. "Chamomile, supposed to help you sleep." "I don't think anything's helping me sleep tonight." "Try anyway." He handed her a mug and leaned against the doorframe. "Marcus is doing perimeter checks every hour. Windows are wired to an alarm system. Front gate is locked and monitored. No one's getting in here without us knowing about it." "You can't promise that." "No, but I can promise we'll know if they try." She sipped the tea. It was good, better than anything she made at home. "What happens now?" "FBI arrests Thomas. They process him, hold him until arraignment. With the evidence I gave them and the man Marcus caught, they'll deny bail. He'll sit in jail until trial." "How long?" 6 months, maybe more." "And we just stay here for 6 months?" "You stay here until he's locked up. After that, you can go back to your life, or—" He stopped. "Or what?" "Or you don't. You take the money I'm paying you and start somewhere new. Different city, different name. I can arrange it." "I'm not running." "It's not running, it's surviving." "Same thing." She set down the mug. "I've been running my whole life. New town every time things got bad. New name when the old one got attached to the wrong story. I'm tired of it. Maya's tired of it. She deserves to actually have a home. And you think testifying will give you that?" "I think doing the right thing might finally let me stop looking over my shoulder." Adrian was quiet for a moment. "I get that. I do. But the right thing can still get you killed. Then I guess I'll die doing something that mattered for once." She meant it flippantly, but he didn't smile. "Don't say that." "Why not?" "Because you don't get to matter just by dying. You matter by staying alive and building something better. That's harder. That's the work." He pushed off the doorframe. "Get some sleep. We'll figure out next steps in the morning." He left before she could respond. Lena sat in the dark room, listening to Maya breathe, thinking about mattering and dying and whether there was actually a difference. Eventually she lay down beside her daughter, fully clothed, and closed her eyes. She didn't expect to sleep, but the exhaustion won, pulling her under into dreams that felt like drowning. Morning came too fast and too bright. Lena woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the sound of Maya's voice drifting up from somewhere downstairs. For a disorienting moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then it all crashed back. The apartment. The ledge. The drive through darkness. She sat up, her body aching in places she didn't know could ache. Her mouth tasted like fear and old tea. She needed coffee, a shower, and about 12 more hours of sleep, in that order. Downstairs, she found Maya at a kitchen table eating cereal and talking to Marcus like they were old friends. And then the dragon said, "You can't eat me because I'm allergic to fire," Maya was saying, completely serious. "That's a very smart dragon," Marcus replied, equally serious. "That's what I said, but the knight didn't believe him." Lena cleared her throat. Both of them looked up. "Mom, there's like 6 kinds of cereal here. 6! I picked the one with the most sugar." "Of course you did." Lena crossed to the coffee maker, which already had a full pot waiting. She poured a cup and leaned against the counter, letting the warmth seep into her hands. "Where's Adrian?" "Office," Marcus said. "Conference call with his lawyers. Should be done soon." "Is Thomas in jail?" "As of 3 this morning. No bail. Judge agreed he's a flight risk. Something in Lena's chest loosened slightly. Not relief, not yet, but the beginning of it. So it's over. For now. That's not the same thing as over. No, it's not. Maya looked between them, her spoon halfway to her mouth. Who's Thomas? No one you need to worry about, Lena said quickly. Is he the bad guy? Maya. Because if there's a bad guy and he's in jail, that means the story's almost over, right? That's how it works in movies. Lena exchanged a look with Marcus, who gave her the smallest shrug. Your call. She sat down at the table across from her daughter. Yeah, baby, that's how it works. Good, because I like this house better than the fancy one. It has a backyard. Can I go play in it? After breakfast. I'm done. You ate 4 bites? That's breakfast. Marcus stood. I'll take her out. Perimeter's secure and she could use the air. Lena wanted to say no, wanted to keep Maya within arm's reach for the next decade, but her daughter was already bouncing toward the back door with the kind of energy that came from being 6 and resilient in ways adults had forgotten how to be. Stay where Marcus can see you, Lena called after her. I know! The door slammed. Through the window, Lena watched Maya run into the yard, immediately drawn to a tree with low branches perfect for climbing. Marcus followed at a distance, his phone in one hand, his attention split between Maya and whatever was on the screen. You're good with her, Adrian's voice came from behind her. She turned to find him in the doorway, looking less exhausted than he had last night, but still wrong around the edges. Hair still damp from a shower, wearing jeans and a sweater that made him look almost normal. You say that like it's surprising, Lena said. Most parents can't stay calm when their kids are in danger. You kept her alive on that ledge. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. You made the right one. He poured himself coffee and sat down at the table where Maya had been. The FBI wants your statement. Today, if possible. Lena's stomach tightened. Where? Here. They'll send agents to take it officially, record it, make it admissible. Should take a couple hours. What do I say? The truth. What you saw, what you did, what happened after. They'll ask questions. You answer them honestly. That's it. And then? Then they build the case. Add your testimony to the evidence, the financial records, the hired muscle from last night. By the time this goes to trial, Thomas won't have a leg to stand on. When's the trial? 6 to 8 months? Maybe longer if his lawyers drag it out. And I just wait here for 6 months? You wait here until the arraignment. After that, you can go back to the city if you want, but I'd recommend staying, at least until the trial. Lena set down her coffee cup. I can't stay here for 8 months. I have a life. Maya has school. Maya can do school online. I'll pay for it. That's not the point. Then what is the point? The point is I can't just hide in the woods and pretend the rest of the world doesn't exist. I have bills, responsibilities, which I've already covered, Adrian said. Your rent's paid through the end of the year. Your bank account has enough to cover everything else. Maya's school has been notified she's taking a family leave. You have no obligations except staying alive. The words should have been reassuring. Instead, they made her feel trapped. You can't just rearrange my life without asking. I can if it keeps you breathing. That's not your decision to make. You involved me the moment you spilled that water. The statement landed like a slap. Lena stood up, her chair scraping against the floor. I saved your life. And I'm trying to save yours. That's how this works. By controlling everything? By making me dependent on you? By keeping you out of Thomas's reach? His voice stayed level, maddeningly calm. You don't understand how this works. He has money, connections, people who owe him favors. Even in jail, he can make things happen. The only way you stay safe is by staying hidden. I'm not hiding. I'm testifying. There's a difference. Not to him. They stared at each other across the kitchen. Outside, Maya's laughter filtered through the window, light, careless, proof that at least one of them could still find joy in a morning that smelled like pine trees and coffee. The FBI agents will be here at 2, Adrian said finally. You should prepare. Prepare how? Think through everything that happened. Get the timeline straight. They'll want details. What time you noticed Thomas? What hand he used? Exactly where the glass was positioned. The more specific you can be, the stronger the testimony. I remember everything. Good. Then it'll be quick. He left the kitchen, taking his coffee with him. Lena stood alone in the sudden quiet, feeling the weight of the last 48 hours pressing down on her shoulders. She'd thought making the choice to help would be the hard part. Turned out living with the consequences was harder. She went upstairs and took a shower, letting the hot water run longer than necessary, washing away the sweat and fear that had soaked into her skin. The bathroom had actual soap, not hotel bottles. Lavender scent, expensive. She used it anyway, too tired to feel guilty about it. When she came back downstairs, Maya was still outside, now attempting to build something with sticks. Marcus sat on the back porch, watching her with the kind of patience that came from years of practice. Lena joined him. "She always this energetic?" Marcus asked. "Always. I don't know where she gets it. Kids are resilient. They bounce back from things that would break adults." "I hope you're right." "I am. I've seen it before." He glanced at her. "You doing okay?" "Honestly, I have no idea." "That's fair." They sat in silence for a while, watching Maya chase something. A butterfly, maybe, or just the wind. The yard stretched back into trees, dense and green, blocking out the rest of the world. It felt safe in a way the city never had. But safety, Lena was learning, was just another word for temporary. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Sure." "How long have you worked for Adrian?" 8 years. And in those 8 years, has he ever done something like this before? Brought someone here? Protected them? Marcus considered the question. No? So why me? You'd have to ask him. I'm asking you. He looked at her directly. Because you didn't hesitate. When you saw something wrong, you acted. Most people freeze, calculate risk, talk themselves out of it. You just moved. He paused. Adrian respects that. He doesn't respect much, but he respects action. Even when the action gets people killed, you're not dead. Not yet. And you won't be. Not on my watch. He said it simply, like a fact. The FBI agents will be here soon. You should eat something before they arrive. Gives your brain fuel for the questions. I'm not hungry. Eat anyway. She did, forcing down toast and eggs that tasted like cardboard. Maya came inside around 1:30, grass-stained and happy, and Lena cleaned her up in the bathroom sink while trying not to think about what was coming. The FBI agents arrived at 2:03. 2 of them, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a younger man who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Adrian met them at the door, shook hands, led them to a sitting room that Lena hadn't seen before. It had a desk, chairs arranged in a semicircle, a recording device already set up. Ms. Carter, I'm Special Agent Jennifer Reeves. This is Special Agent Kyle Brennan. We're going to record your statement regarding the events of 2 nights ago. Everything you say will be part of the official investigation into Thomas Crane. Do you understand? Lena nodded. I need a verbal confirmation. Yes, I understand. Good. Let's begin. Reeves pressed a button on the recorder. State your full name and date of birth for the record. Lena Marie Carter, June 14th, 1999. And your current occupation? I was a waitress at Mercado. I'm not sure if I still am. We'll note that as unclear. Now walk me through the evening of March 27th. What time did your shift start? Lena talked for 2 hours straight. Reeves asked questions, Brennan took notes, and the recorder captured every word. She described the restaurant, the table, the way Thomas had moved his hand over the glass, the angle she'd seen it from. The decision to spill the water, Adrian's reaction, the conversation in the alley afterward. And at that point, did you feel coerced to stay with Mr. Voss? Reeves asked. No, he explained the danger and I made a choice. What choice? To trust him. Why? Lena thought about it. Because he looked at me like I was a person, not a problem. And because he was right, Thomas did come after me. Tell me about that. So she did. The messages, the apartment break-in, the ledge. Maya's face pressed against her chest, both of them balanced on 3 feet of concrete with nothing but air behind them. Brennan looked up from his notes. You climbed onto an exterior ledge on the 28th floor with your daughter? Yes. That's incredibly dangerous. It was more dangerous to stay inside. Fair point. They asked more questions, details about the men who'd broken in, whether she'd recognized any voices, whether Thomas had ever contacted her directly before that night. Lena answered everything as clearly as she could, her voice steady even when her hands weren't. Finally, Reeves turned off the recorder. That's all we need for now. This statement, combined with the physical evidence and Mr. Voss's testimony, should be sufficient to proceed. You'll likely be called to testify at trial, but we'll give you plenty of advance notice. What happens now? Lena asked. Now we've finished building the case. Thomas's lawyers will try to negotiate a plea deal. We'll refuse. This goes to trial, and with what we have, he'll spend the next 20 years in federal prison. 20 years? Attempted murder, conspiracy, embezzlement, witness intimidation. The charges stack up. Reeves stood. You did a brave thing, Ms. Carter. Not many people would have acted the way you did. I didn't feel brave. Bravery isn't about feeling fearless. It's about being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. She handed Lena a card. If you remember anything else, or if Thomas tries to contact you again, call me immediately. Anytime, day or night. After they left, Lena sat in the empty room staring at the business card. Special Agent Jennifer Reeves. A phone number. An email address. Proof that this was real, official, irreversible. Adrian appeared in the doorway. How do you feel? Tired? You did well. How do you know? You weren't in here. I listened from the hallway. Reeves is good. If she says the statement's strong, it is. Lena looked at him. Do you ever feel guilty? About what? About pulling me into this, changing my entire life because I happened to be working the right shift at the right restaurant. He was quiet for a moment. Every day. The honesty surprised her. Then why keep going? Because guilt doesn't change facts. You're in danger whether I feel bad about it or not. All I can do is try to keep you alive long enough for the danger to pass. He moved into the room, sat in the chair Reeves had vacated. For what it's worth, if I could go back and handle this differently, keep you out of it entirely, I would. But you can't. No, I can't. Maya's voice drifted from somewhere upstairs, singing a song Lena didn't recognize. The sound felt out of place in a room that had just been filled with talk of murder and testimony and 20-year prison sentences. She needs to go back to school, Lena said. Real school, not online. She needs friends and recess and all the normal things kids are supposed to have. After the arraignment, no, now, or as soon as possible. Lena stood. I'm not keeping her locked up here because Thomas might have long arms. She's 6. She deserves better than living in fear. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we go back to the city. You put whatever security you want on us, guards, cameras, whatever makes you feel better. But we go home. We live our lives. And when the trial comes, I show up and testify and we move on. That's a risk. Everything's a risk. Staying here is a risk. Going back is a risk. At least if we go back, Maya gets to be a kid again. Adrian studied her face. You're sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Something that might have been respect flickered across his expression. Okay, we'll go back. But on my terms, security detail, regular check-ins, new apartment in a secure building, non-negotiable. Fine. And you let me pay for it. Adrian, non-negotiable, he repeated. You saved my life. The least I can do is make sure you have a safe place to sleep. She wanted to argue, but she was too tired. And maybe, somewhere underneath the pride and the fear, she was starting to understand that accepting help wasn't the same as being weak. Sometimes it was just survival by other means. Okay, she said quietly. They moved back to the city 3 days later. The new apartment was in Tribeca, 15th floor, 2 bedrooms, floor-to-ceiling windows with views of the river. It was too nice, too expensive, too everything, but it had a doorman who checked IDs and a security system that would have been overkill for a bank vault. Maya loved it immediately. Mom, there's a dishwasher and a bathtub big enough to swim in. It's not that big. It's bigger than our old one. Their old apartment sat empty across town, paid through December but already feeling like it belonged to someone else. Lena had gone back once to pack their things, Marcus shadowing her the entire time, and she'd felt like a ghost visiting her own life. Nothing had changed. Same furniture, same dishes, same water stain on the ceiling she'd been meaning to report. But everything was different. She enrolled Maya back in school the following Monday. The principal asked questions about the sudden leave, and Lena gave vague answers about a family emergency that was now resolved. Marcus waited in the parking lot watching. The other parents gave Lena strange looks. She'd never been the type to have mysterious security details, but she ignored them. Maya adjusted faster than Lena expected. Within a week, she was back to her normal routine: homework, playdates, a million questions about why they couldn't get a dog, even though the new apartment allowed pets. Lena tried to adjust too. She applied for new jobs, went to interviews, got rejected more times than she could count. Turns out, I left my last job because I witnessed an attempted murder didn't play well on applications. Adrian offered her work, administrative stuff, easy hours, good pay, but she turned it down. She needed to do something that was hers, not connected to him, not dependent on his money or his guilt or whatever complicated thing existed between them now. Finally, 5 weeks after giving her statement to the FBI, she got a call from a small clinic in Brooklyn. They needed a medical assistant. No formal training required, just a willingness to learn and a clean background check. "When can you start?" the hiring manager asked. "Tomorrow." She started the next day. The work was hard. Long hours, difficult patients, doctors who treated assistants like furniture, but it was hers. She learned how to take vitals, update charts, comfort people who were scared and angry and desperate. She learned that helping people wasn't always dramatic. Sometimes it was just showing up and doing the small things that made a difference. Adrian called her once a week to check in. The conversations were always brief, professional, updates on the case, security concerns, logistical details. He never asked how she was doing, and she never offered the information. It was easier that way, less complicated. The arraignment was set for mid-May. Thomas pled not guilty to all charges, his lawyers confident they could create reasonable doubt. The trial date was pushed to August, then September, then October, as motions piled up and delays mounted. Lena kept living, working, taking care of Maya, sleeping in an apartment that still felt too big but was slowly becoming home. She bought groceries without checking prices. She signed Maya up for piano lessons they couldn't have afforded before. She started saving money, real money, the kind that could actually build a future. In early September, Marcus called her at work. Thomas made bail. Her blood went cold. "What?" His lawyers found a judge who agreed to house arrest with monitoring. He's out as of an hour ago. How is that possible? Reeves said. Reeves didn't expect him to put up $8 million in collateral. But he did. He's out, confined to his apartment, but out. Does Adrian know? "I'm calling him next, but I wanted you to know first." Marcus's voice was steady, but she could hear the tension underneath. "Nothing changes. You're still protected. Security stays in place. But be aware." "I'm always aware." She hung up and stood in the supply closet where she'd taken the call, her hands shaking. 8 weeks. They'd made it 8 weeks without incident, and now Thomas was back in play. Her phone rang again. Adrian this time. "I heard," she said before he could speak. "Are you okay?" "I'm at work. Maya's at school. We're both fine. I'm sending additional security. One outside your building, one outside Maya's school. That's excessive. It's necessary. Adrian." "Lena." He said her name like it meant something. "Let me do this, please." She closed her eyes. "Okay. Thank you." He hung up. Lena stayed in the supply closet for another minute, breathing slowly, trying to calm the spike of adrenaline that made her want to run to Maya's school and never let her out of sight again. That night, after Maya was asleep, Lena stood at the window looking at the city. Somewhere out there, Thomas Crane sat in his apartment, probably drinking expensive scotch, planning his next move. The thought should have terrified her. Instead, it made her angry. She'd spent her whole life being careful, being small, avoiding attention. And where had it gotten her? To a life where one wrong move could still destroy everything. But she'd made the move anyway. She'd acted, and maybe that was the point. Not to avoid danger, but to face it when it mattered. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You should have stayed quiet." Her heart hammered. She stared at the message, then took a screenshot and sent it to both Marcus and Adrian. Adrian called 30 seconds later. "Don't respond. I'm tracing it now." "He knows where I live." "He's known where you live since day one. This is intimidation. He's testing to see if you'll break." "I'm not breaking." "Good. Don't." A pause. I'm coming over. You don't have to. I'm already on my way. He arrived 20 minutes later. Lena met him at the door, and for the first time since this started, she let herself admit how relieved she was to not be alone. Maya's asleep? He asked. Yeah. Good. He came inside and she realized he was carrying a laptop. I need to show you something. They sat at the kitchen table. Adrian opened the laptop and pulled up a series of documents, financial records, email chains, recordings of phone calls. Thomas has been building a defense. His lawyers are claiming you're lying, that I paid you to fabricate testimony, that the whole thing is a setup because I wanted to push him out of the company. That's insane. That's strategy. If they can discredit you, the case falls apart. What do we do? We find proof they can't explain away. He clicked through more files. I've been digging deeper into Thomas's finances. The embezzling goes back further than I thought. 5 years, not 2. And there are connections to people I didn't know he was working with. What kind of people? Adrian looked at her. The kind who solve problems permanently. The implication settled in her stomach like lead. You think he's hired someone to kill me? I think he's considering it, which means we need to move faster than him. How? By giving the FBI everything I've found, by making it impossible for his lawyers to create reasonable doubt, by burying him so deep he never sees daylight again. His voice was flat, controlled, but she could see the fury underneath. He threatened your daughter. That's a line you don't cross. Adrian, I'm not asking permission. I'm telling you what I'm doing. He closed the laptop. The trial is in 6 weeks. Between now and then, stay close to security. Don't go anywhere unfamiliar, and if you get any more messages, send them to me immediately. Okay? He stood to leave, then hesitated. You're stronger than you think you are. I don't feel strong. No one ever does. But you're still here. That counts for something. After he left, Lena sat alone in the quiet apartment, thinking about strength and survival and the difference between the two. Somewhere in the last few months, she'd stopped being invisible. People saw her now, really saw her, and that was terrifying and liberating in equal measure. She picked up her phone and texted Adrian, "Thank you." His response came a minute later. For what? For not giving up on me. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then never. The 6 weeks before the trial passed in a strange rhythm, slow days that felt endless and fast nights where Lena would blink and suddenly it was morning again. She worked at the clinic, picked up Maya from school, made dinner, helped with homework, and tried to pretend that the weight of what was coming wasn't sitting on her chest every second. Thomas sent 3 more messages, each one vaguer than the last, carefully worded to avoid direct threats but clear enough in intent. Adrian traced them all, forwarded everything to Reeves, built the case brick by brick. The FBI added witness intimidation to the charges. Thomas's bail was revoked. He went back to jail, and Lena breathed easier for about 48 hours before the anxiety crept back in. Marcus became a fixture in their lives. Not intrusive, just present. He drove Maya to school most mornings, waited outside the clinic when Lena's shift ended late, never complained, never asked for anything. Just did his job with the kind of quiet competence that made Lena trust him in ways she hadn't trusted anyone in years. "Why do you do this?" she asked him one afternoon while they waited for Maya's piano lesson to finish. "Do what?" "Protect people. Follow orders. Put yourself between strangers and danger." Marcus considered the question, his eyes on the music school entrance. "Because someone has to. And I'm good at it." "That's not really an answer." "It's the only one I've got." She let it go. Some people didn't need complicated reasons for doing the right thing. Sometimes competence was enough. Adrian came by the apartment twice more before the trial. Once to go over her testimony, making sure she was ready for the kinds of questions the defense would throw at her. The second time, he just showed up at 9 p.m. with takeout and an apology. "For what?" Lena asked, letting him in. "For everything. For the mess, for dragging you into this. For..." He stopped, searching for words. "For not being able to fix it faster." "You can't control everything." "I know. Doesn't stop me from trying." They ate lo mein on her couch while Maya slept down the hall. The conversation wandered. His childhood upstate, her years bouncing between towns, the strange way their lives had collided. It felt normal in a way nothing had felt normal in months. "What happens after?" Lena asked. "After the trial. After Thomas is sentenced. What do we do then?" "You go back to your life. I go back to mine." "Just like that?" "Just like that." Something in her chest twisted, but she didn't examine it too closely. "Seems anticlimactic." Most endings are. He left around midnight, and Lena stood at the window watching the street below, wondering if she wanted the ending to come or if part of her had gotten used to the chaos. The trial started on October 16th. Lena dressed carefully that morning. A navy dress Maya had helped her pick out, low heels she could actually walk in, her hair pulled back in a way that made her look older than 26. Professional. Credible. Like someone whose word mattered. Marcus picked her up at 7. The courthouse was downtown, old stone and marble, the kind of building designed to make you feel small. News vans lined the street outside. Apparently a wealthy businessman trying to murder his partner was interesting enough for local coverage. Lena kept her head down as Marcus guided her through a side entrance, avoiding the cameras. Inside, the building smelled like old paper and floor polish. Adrian was already there, standing in the hallway with his lawyers, 3 of them, all in matching suits. He saw her and crossed over immediately. "You ready?" "No." "That's normal." "Is it?" "Probably." He glanced at Marcus, some wordless communication passing between them. "You'll testify after lunch. Prosecution's calling you third after the financial analyst and the security expert. Should give you time to settle in. Watch how it works." "I've watched Law and Order. I know how it works." "This isn't TV." "I know that too." A door opened down the hall. People started filing into the courtroom, lawyers, clerks, reporters with notebooks. Lena's stomach knotted. She hadn't seen Thomas since that night at the restaurant, hadn't wanted to. The thought of being in the same room with him, of looking at the man who'd tried to kill Adrian and then sent people after her daughter, made her skin crawl. "I can't do this," she said suddenly. Adrian looked at her. "Yes, you can." "You don't know that." "I do. Because you've already done harder things. You climbed onto a ledge 28 floors up with your daughter in your arms. You can sit in a chair and tell the truth." "That's different." "How?" "Because on the ledge, I didn't have a choice." "You have a choice now. You can walk away, refuse to testify, let the case fall apart. No one would blame you." He paused. "But you won't, because you're not someone who walks away when it matters." She wanted to argue, to prove him wrong, but the words wouldn't come. He was right. She'd crossed too many lines to turn back now. "Okay," she said quietly. They went inside. The courtroom was smaller than she'd expected. Dark wood paneling, rows of benches, a judge's stand that looked imposing, even empty. Lena sat in the gallery behind the prosecution's table, Marcus beside her. People filtered in. More lawyers, a few reporters, some faces she didn't recognize. Then Thomas. He walked in flanked by his defense team, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Lena made in 3 months. His silver hair was perfectly styled, his expression calm, almost bored. He looked like a man who'd never worried about anything in his life. Like the last few months had been a minor inconvenience rather than a fight for his freedom. His eyes swept the room and landed on Lena. She made herself hold his gaze. Didn't look away. Didn't flinch. After a few seconds, he smiled, small, cold, and turned back to his lawyers. "Breathe," Marcus murmured beside her. She realized she'd been holding her breath and forced herself to exhale. The judge entered. Everyone stood. The trial began. The morning was procedural, opening statements, jury instructions, the kind of legal foundation that sounded important but mostly felt like waiting. The prosecution laid out their case clearly. Thomas Crane had embezzled millions, and when Adrian Voss discovered the theft, Thomas tried to poison him. When that failed, he hired people to intimidate and potentially kill the witness. The evidence was overwhelming. The defendant was guilty. The defense countered with a different story. Adrian Voss was a controlling, paranoid man who'd built a conspiracy theory around a business dispute. The alleged poisoning never happened. The embezzling was creative accounting taken out of context. The witness, Lena Carter, was a desperate single mother who'd been paid to lie. This was a vindictive prosecution based on fabricated evidence and false testimony. Lena listened to them tear apart her character without ever having met her, and felt anger replace the fear in her chest. The lunch recess came. Lena couldn't eat. She tried, forcing down half a sandwich in a conference room with Adrian and the prosecutors, but her throat kept closing up. At 1:15, they called her to the stand. Walking to the witness box felt like walking underwater. Everything moved too slowly and too fast at once. She raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth, and sat down in the chair that felt designed to make you feel exposed. The lead prosecutor was a woman named Catherine Walsh, 50s, sharp-eyed, with the kind of voice that carried authority without being loud. She smiled at Lena, just a little, enough to be reassuring. "Ms. Carter, can you tell the court what you do for a living?" "I work as a medical assistant at a clinic in Brooklyn." "And before that?" "I was a waitress at Mercado, a restaurant in Manhattan." "How long did you work there?" 14 months. Walsh walked her through it slowly. The night of March 27th, the VIP table, the moment she noticed Thomas reaching for Adrian's glass, the decision to spill the water, everything exactly as she told the FBI. "Why did you spill the water, Ms. Carter?" "Because I saw him put something in the glass and I didn't think. I just acted." You didn't know Mr. Voss personally at that point?" "No." "You weren't being paid by him?" "No." "So you risked your job, possibly your safety, for a complete stranger?" "I guess so." "That's very admirable." Thomas's lawyer stood. "Objection. Counsel is testifying." "Sustained," the judge said. "Move on, Miss Walsh." Walsh nodded and continued. She asked about the conversation in the alley afterward, about Adrian's explanation of the poison, about the money he'd transferred. Each question was careful, strategic, building a narrative that painted Lena as credible and Thomas as dangerous. Then Walsh stepped back. "Your witness." Thomas's lead defense attorney was a man named Richard Holt, 60, gray suit, the kind of lawyer who looked like he'd been born in a courtroom. He approached the stand with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Ms. Carter, you testified that Mr. Voss transferred you $5,000 the night of the alleged incident. Is that correct?" "Yes." "That's a lot of money for a waitress." "Objection," Walsh said. "Relevance." "I'm establishing motive, Your Honor." "I'll allow it, but get to the point, Mr. Holt." Holt turned back to Lena. $5,000 is more than you make in 2 months at the restaurant, isn't it?" "Probably." "So when a wealthy man offers you that kind of money, you'd be motivated to do what he asks, wouldn't you?" "He didn't ask me to do anything. I saw what I saw." "Or you saw what you wanted to see, because a man like Adrian Voss with his resources could make life very comfortable for someone in your position." Holt pulled out a document. "In fact, Mr. Voss has paid your rent for the last 6 months, hasn't he?" "He's been helping because I was in danger." "Danger you claim existed because of my client, based solely on your testimony." "I didn't claim anything. I saw it happen." "You saw what exactly? A hand moving over a glass?" "That could be anything. Adjusting the position, adding ice, reaching for a napkin." "He dropped something into the water." "You can't possibly know that. You were 20 feet away in dim lighting with dozens of other things to pay attention to. Isn't it possible you simply made a mistake?" "No." "No? You're absolutely certain? Because mistakes happen, Ms. Carter, especially when someone is offering you money to be certain." Lena felt her face flush. "I'm not lying." "I didn't say you were lying. I said you were mistaken. There's a difference." Holt moved closer. "Let's talk about what happened after. You went to Mr. Voss's apartment, correct?" "Yes." "A wealthy man's private apartment, alone, in the middle of the night." "I had my daughter with me." "Eventually, but not at first. At first it was just you and Mr. Voss, a powerful man and a woman who needed money. Can you see how that might look?" "Objection!" Walsh was on her feet. "Counsel is implying facts, not in evidence." "Your Honor, I'm exploring the witness's credibility." "By impugning her character," Walsh shot back. "This is harassment." The judge looked tired. "Mr. Holt, rephrase or move on." Holt smiled. "Ms. Carter, isn't it true that you've been living in an apartment paid for by Mr. Voss receiving money from him regularly, and that your entire livelihood now depends on maintaining the story he needs you to tell. That's not yes or no. He's been helping because, yes or no, Ms. Carter? Lena looked at Adrian. He gave the smallest nod. Tell the truth. She turned back to Holt. He's been paying for things, yes, but not because I'm lying. Because his partner tried to kill him and then came after me. According to you. According to the evidence. We'll see about that. Holt glanced at his notes. No further questions. Lena stepped down, her legs shaking. She made it back to her seat and collapsed into it, feeling like she'd just run a marathon. Marcus handed her a bottle of water without speaking. She drank half of it in one go. You did good, Adrian said quietly. It didn't feel good. It never does. The trial continued through the afternoon. More witnesses, more evidence. The security guard from the apartment building testified about the break-in. The FBI agent explained the ricin vial. The financial analyst walked through years of embezzlement in excruciating detail. Each piece built on the last, creating a picture that was hard to deny. But Thomas's lawyers were good. They created doubt wherever they could, suggesting alternate explanations, questioning motives, making everything seem less certain than it was. By the time the judge called recess for the day, Lena felt wrung out. They'd barely scratched the surface. This was only day one, and the trial was expected to last 2 weeks. Go home, Adrian said as they filed out of the courtroom. Rest. Don't watch the news. I'm not watching the news. Good. Marcus drove her back to the apartment. Maya was already there with Mrs. Chen, who'd agreed to watch her during the trial. She took one look at Lena's face and made tea without being asked. Bad day? Maya asked from the couch. Long day. Did you win? It doesn't work like that, baby. It takes time. That's dumb. Yeah, it kind of is. That night, after Maya was asleep, Lena stood at the window again. Somewhere in a cell downtown, Thomas Crane was probably strategizing with his lawyers, planning his next move. And somewhere else in the city, Adrian was probably doing the same thing. 2 weeks, 14 days. She could survive that. She had to. The trial ground forward. Day after day of testimony, cross-examination, legal arguments that made Lena's head hurt. She attended every session, sitting in the gallery, watching the jury's faces, trying to read which way they were leaning. On day 5, the defense called their witnesses. Character witnesses for Thomas, business associates who swore he was honest, charitable, incapable of violence. A toxicologist who testified that the ricin vial could have been planted. A handwriting expert who questioned the authenticity of some of the financial documents. On day 8, Thomas himself took the stand. He was good. Lena had to admit that. He spoke clearly, calmly, painting himself as a victim of Adrian's paranoia and vindictiveness. He claimed the embezzling was a misunderstanding, that he'd been moving money with Adrian's knowledge for legitimate business reasons. He said the poisoning never happened, that Lena had been coached, that the whole thing was an elaborate setup. Adrian Voss is a controlling man, Thomas said, looking directly at the jury. When I tried to push back on some of his more aggressive business practices, he decided I was a threat. This prosecution is his way of eliminating me. Walsh's cross-examination was brutal. She walked him through the financial records, showing transfers that couldn't be explained, shell companies that didn't exist for any legitimate purpose, forged signatures on documents he swore he'd never seen. Mr. Crane, if these transactions were legitimate, why hide them? They weren't hidden. They were simply complex. Complex? Is that what you call embezzling $7 million? I call it creative accounting that's been deliberately misrepresented. And the ricin? What ricin? I've seen a vial that supposedly contains poison. I've never seen proof that it was actually in my possession or that I used it for anything. Ms. Carter testified she saw you. Ms. Carter is either mistaken or lying. I don't know which, but I know I didn't poison anyone. Back and forth, question and answer, truth and lies so tangled together that Lena couldn't tell if the jury believed him or not. On day 10, closing arguments. Walsh went first, summarizing the evidence methodically. The defendant embezzled millions of dollars. When he was caught, he attempted murder. When that failed, he intimidated a witness and tried to harm her child. The evidence is overwhelming. The testimony is credible. Thomas Crane is guilty of every charge against him. Holt countered with doubt. The prosecution wants you to believe that a respected businessman with decades of experience suddenly became a criminal mastermind. They want you to trust the word of a waitress who's been financially dependent on the alleged victim. They want you to ignore the possibility of mistakes, misunderstandings, and deliberate fabrication. Don't let them. The burden of proof is on them, and they haven't met it. Find my client not guilty. The jury deliberated for 3 days. 3 days of waiting, of checking her phone every 5 minutes, of barely sleeping. Lena went to work but couldn't focus. Maya asked questions she couldn't answer. Adrian called twice a day with updates that weren't really updates. Still deliberating. No news. We wait. On the afternoon of day 13, Lena's phone rang. Walsh. They have a verdict. Her stomach dropped. When? 30 minutes. Get to the courthouse. Marcus had her there in 20. The courtroom filled quickly. Reporters, lawyers, people she didn't recognize. Thomas was led in by bailiffs, his expression unreadable. Adrian sat at the prosecution table, his spine straight, his hands folded. The jury filed in. Lena tried to read their faces and couldn't. The judge entered. Has the jury reached a verdict? The forewoman stood. We have, Your Honor. On the count of attempted murder, how do you find? We find the defendant guilty. Lena's breath stopped. On the count of embezzlement? Guilty. On the count of witness intimidation? Guilty. The forewoman continued through all 8 counts. Guilty, guilty, guilty. Each word landing like a hammer blow, reshaping reality with every syllable. Thomas's face went pale. His lawyers immediately started whispering, probably already planning appeals. But it didn't matter. The verdict was in. The judge thanked the jury and set sentencing for 3 weeks out. Thomas was led away. No longer a defendant, but a convicted criminal. The courtroom erupted in noise, reporters scrambling for their phones, lawyers congratulating each other, the low hum of 100 conversations starting at once. Lena sat frozen. She'd expected to feel relief or vindication, or something strong and clear. Instead, she just felt tired. Adrian turned around and found her in the crowd. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate, just gave her a single nod that meant it's over. She nodded back. Outside, the press swarmed them. Marcus got her through the crowd and into the car before anyone could shove a microphone in her face. The questions followed them anyway, muffled through the windows. Ms. Carter, how does it feel to have won? Do you think justice was served? What's next for you? She didn't have answers. At home, Maya greeted her at the door. Did you win? Yeah, baby, we won. Good. Can we get pizza to celebrate? Sure. They ordered pizza, ate it on the couch while watching some animated movie Maya had seen 3 times already. Normal things, small things, the kind of things that made up a life when the big things finally stopped trying to destroy it. That night, after Maya was asleep, Adrian called. You okay? He asked. I think so. Are you? Yeah. A pause. I wanted to thank you for everything, for not giving up. You already thanked me, like 100 times. I know, but I mean it. I know you do. She pulled a blanket tighter around herself. What happens now? Sentencing in 3 weeks. He'll get 20 years minimum, probably more. After that, appeals, but they won't go anywhere. It's done. And us? The question hung there heavier than she'd intended. What do you want to happen? Adrian asked quietly. Lena thought about it. About the last 6 months, the fear and chaos and strange intimacy that came from surviving something together. About going back to being invisible versus staying in the light. I don't know, she said honestly. I don't know who I am when I'm not running or hiding or testifying. Then figure it out. You have time now. What about you? What are you going to do? Rebuild. The company, my reputation, all the things Thomas tried to destroy. It'll take a while. You're good at that. Rebuilding. I've had practice. They talked for another hour about nothing important. Movies they'd seen, places they'd been, the small details that made up a person beyond the crisis. It felt normal, easy, like maybe they could be friends without the danger holding them together. When they finally said goodnight, Lena felt something shift in her chest. Not an ending exactly, more like space opening up where fear used to be. The sentencing came 3 weeks later. Thomas Crane received 24 years in federal prison, no possibility of parole. His lawyers filed appeals immediately. No one expected them to succeed. Lena didn't attend the sentencing. She'd seen enough courtrooms to last a lifetime. Instead, she went to work, helped patients, came home to Maya, and started building the life she'd always wanted but never thought she could have. Adrian paid for her to take the CNA course she'd been dreaming about. She tried to refuse, but he wore her down with logic. "You saved my life. Let me invest in yours." She finished the program in 3 months and got certified. The clinic promoted her. The pay was better. The work was harder but satisfying in ways waitressing never had been. Maya thrived. She made friends, joined soccer, brought home report cards with grades that made Lena's chest swell with pride. The apartment stopped feeling too big and started feeling like home. They got a fish, since a dog was still too much responsibility, and Maya named it Bubbles, with the kind of enthusiasm only a 7-year-old could muster. Adrian came by occasionally, not often, maybe once a month. They'd have dinner, talk about work and life and the slow process of healing from things that tried to break you. He never pushed for more, and she appreciated that. They'd been through something intense, and that created a bond, but it didn't have to become something it wasn't. One evening in December, 8 months after the trial ended, Lena found herself walking past Mercado. The restaurant glowed warm in the cold night, its windows fogged from the heat inside. She stopped and looked in, watching servers move between tables with the practiced efficiency she remembered so well. A different life. One she'd stepped out of the night she chose to act instead of staying invisible. She didn't regret it. Not anymore. The fear had been real, the danger had been real, but so was the life she'd built on the other side of it. A better life. One where she got to be more than a ghost moving through other people's stories. "Mom!" Maya's voice called from down the street. She'd run ahead to look in a toy store window and was waving frantically. "Come see!" Lena walked away from the restaurant, toward her daughter, toward the future that was still being written. Behind her, the past faded into the city noise. Important once, but not anymore. She'd made one choice on a storm-soaked Manhattan night, and it had changed everything. Now she got to make all the rest.